What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Tyler Egan. I'm a certified personal trainer, a fitness nutrition specialist, and a weight loss specialist. All that really means is I can help you get juicy, or I can help you get thick, or I can help you get jacked. Most importantly, I can help you get swole. If you haven't watched the two videos before this, you should. In the first one, we go over how to calculate your calorie intake, and that's going to be important to understand for this video because you need to know your total energy expenditure in order to calculate your macros. The video after that, I go over each macronutrient and the importance of all three of them. I also go over why there's no need to cut out any single one because our body can use all three as energy and they're important for other functions within the body. So make sure you check those videos out. The links will be down below, and let's get into this. So the way I usually go about calculating macros is quite simple. I figure out my protein intake first, then my fats, and then whatever's left usually is carbohydrates. So in order to figure out your protein intake, just take your weight and multiply that by 0.8 to 1 depending on how much protein you really want to eat. And you can even multiply by 0.8 and 1 and get like a ballpark range. And that will be your total protein intake. From there, we'll figure out what your fat intake is going to be. I always recommend anywhere from 15 to 30% of your total caloric intake coming from fats. The reason there's a range is because it really depends on what your goals are. A safe bet when it comes to total fat intake is always 20 to 25%. From there, we'll figure out what your protein intake is and your fat intake, add it up, subtract that from your total calorie intake, and whatever is left goes to carbs. This will all be a lot more clear in a couple minutes when I go over a couple examples. First example, we have somebody who weighs in at about 275 pounds and wants to get down to 195. Now in this particular case, because this person's trying to lose a significant amount of weight, we're going to take their goal weight and use that to calculate their macros. So first what we do is we multiply their goal weight times 11 to get their total calorie intake. There, we can calculate their protein intake. We can take their goal weight and multiply it by 0.8 to 1 to get like a ballpark range. So if you multiply the goal weight times 0.8, it comes to 156, and 195 times 1 is obviously 195. We'll go with somewhere in the middle. So 175 grams of protein will be how much protein this person's going to take in. Now, in order to figure out what the percentage is on this, you need to take the total grams, multiply it by 4, and then divide that by the total calorie intake. With fats, we're going to go with a general starting point of 25%. So in this case, we take the total calorie intake and multiply that by 25%. We get 536, and we divide that by 9 because if you remember, fats are 9 grams per calorie, and we get a total of 59.58, so we'll just round that to 59 grams, and that's the total fat intake. Now you take the two percentages, add them up, whatever's left is a percentage of the carbohydrates we're going to be taking in. So in this case, this person is going to get 43% of their total calorie intake coming from carbs. Take the total calorie intake, multiply that by 43%, and you get 922 and some change. Divide that by 4 because carbohydrates are 4 grams per calorie, and you get a total of 230 grams of carbs for the total carbohydrate intake. So for this example, the person is going to be getting 2,145 calories in total. 32% of the diet is going to be coming from protein, which is about 175 grams. 25% of the diet is coming from fats, which is 59 grams. And the last is 43% of carbohydrates, which is 230 grams. I'll use myself again. So when I started bulking, I was at about 155 pounds, and I wanted to get to 165. So I took my starting weight of 155 and multiplied it by 20. I got 3,100 calories, and I decided to start with 160 grams of protein. Did the math, this came out to about 19% of my total calorie intake, and then I began to realize for myself that eating a higher fat diet worked out better for me. I'm eating about 40% of my total calorie intake is coming from fats. So I took 3,100 and multiplied that by 40%. I got 1,240, divided that by 9, and I got a total of 137 grams of fat for my diet. Then I took the 40% and the 19%, added it up, took it away from what we had left, and I came out to about 41% of my total calorie intake coming from carbohydrates. So I took 3,100 and multiplied that by 41% and got 1,271, divided that by 4, and I rounded to 317 grams of total carbohydrates. So for me, I'm looking at a starting point of 3,100 calories, 160 grams of protein, 137 grams of fat, and 317 grams of carbohydrates. So I have a little bonus for everybody. Let's say you're somebody who wants to, I don't know, you like your weight, maybe you want to build muscle, stay at your weight and lose some of the fat. So you want to build muscle and lose fat at the same time. I don't think this is out of the question. I just think it's going to take you a lot longer than it would if you were specifically headed towards one or the other. So with that being said, I want to help you figure out your macronutrients in that case where you would want to do something called recomping. So for this example, we're going to take someone who's at 180 pounds and wants to stay that weight, but they still want to build muscle and lose some fat. They train hard in the gym 4 days a week with some light activity on off days like walking or mobility. In order for this person to maintain their weight, they would need to eat at about 2,900 calories per day. But in this case, because we want to build muscle and lose fat, we need to do something a little different. So on training days, what you're gonna do is you're gonna add 200 to 300 calories, and on off days, you're gonna subtract 200 to 300 calories. So it'll look like this. On training days, we'll eat at about 3,100 calories, 180 grams of protein, which comes to about 17% of the total calorie intake. This person found out that they like to have a little bit of a higher fat intake, so they're gonna get 30% of their total calorie intake coming from fats, which comes to 103 grams. And what's left now is 53% of the total calorie intake. So you take 53%, multiply that by 3,100, divide that number by 4, and whatever's left is your total carbohydrate intake, and that comes to about 410 grams. Now that's just for training days. On your off days, you're gonna subtract the same amount of calories. So in this case, we're gonna do 200. So on off days, we have a total calorie intake of 2,700, still getting the 180 grams of protein, but in this case, protein is only gonna be 15% of the total calorie intake. On off days, we're gonna bump down the total fat intake to 25%. When you multiply 25% by 2,700, you get 675, divide that by 9, you get 75 total grams of fats. And whatever's left is going to carbs, and in this case, we're gonna eat 60% of our total calorie intake coming from carbs. 2,700 times 60% is 1,620, divide that by 4, you get 405, and that's gonna be your total carbohydrate intake. That's how you calculate your macros, guys. I showed you an example of someone who's trying to build muscle, someone who's trying to lose fat, and somebody who's trying to do a combination of the two. And the same rules apply if you're just trying to maintain your body weight or your body mass. So if you're somebody out there who's struggling to lose fat or build muscle, you gotta take a look at your nutrition. I think a lot of people say that it's 80% diet, 20% training, and there is some validity to that. Your nutrition is a very important part of why you may not be seeing results. With that being said, it's something that you have full control over. So if you guys took anything from this video, please leave a like and a comment down below. Let me know what you want to cover next. Let me know if you want more examples like this, and if there's anything nutritionally based that I should cover. I also wrote a blog article about this. It's going to be on my website, which is going to be linked down below. Oh, and before you go, make sure you click on a floating box here, maybe something over here, hit the subscribe button, the notification bell, all that good stuff so you'll know every single time I put a new video out.